Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips and strategies to master your sales conversations. Today's episode is one of the Mastering Excellence series. This comes from Mastering Excellence, comes from my background in neurolinguistic programming, where we learn that there is a structure to excellence. And when you can understand the structure of how somebody is achieving exceptional results in some area of their life or business, you can then implement that structure into your own life and or business so that you can achieve similar results. So I'm super excited to introduce you to my guest today. It's Stacy Ennis. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a best-selling author. She's a book strategist and coach and speaker, and she's on a mission to help leaders clarify their ideas and harness their unique story to make an impact. Her background includes impacting more than 100 books in her 15 plus years in publishing, ghostwriting for a Nobel Prize winner in medicine, and leading an executive editor of Sam's Club's Healthy Living Made Simple, a publication that reached around 11 million readers. Her best-selling co-authored book is Growing Influence, a story of how to lead with character, expertise, and impact. Stacy's work and writing have been featured in Yahoo, Inc., Insider, Publishers Weekly, and the TEDx stage. She holds a master's in writing and editing from the University of Cincinnati. Stacy is also the host of Beyond Better, a podcast that explores how to create a location-independent business and life you love. She's lived in 4 countries outside the U.S. and currently lives in Portugal with her husband and 2 kids. And of course, you can learn more about Stacy at stacyennis.com. Stacy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nikki. I feel like we just got my whole biography there.
Your whole thing. Yep. And I know we're going to talk today specifically about how to design a choiceful life, which I love, love, love this concept. And this feels so like perfect and ideal and resonant with who you are and how you show up in the world. And I just got to meet you a couple weeks ago. We met when I got to be a guest on your podcast. Thank you for that. And one of the things that we quickly discovered is here you are, this world traveler, and we have something very uniquely in common. Would we be willing to share what it is?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it because I always, prep before these conversations. And we discovered that you live in Idaho. And not only do you live in Idaho, but you live like within a couple miles from my parents, which is amazing, considering that I'm in Portugal and, all the conversations that I have on all the podcasts, that has not happened yet. So that was pretty cool.
It's funny because sometimes I'll say like, oh, I'm from Idaho when people ask. And I think I even said that to you because I was like, well, she's in Portugal. She's not going to know maybe like if I say whatever. And then I'll say Boise. And then people will go like, oh, okay, maybe I've heard of Boise, but I actually live in Meridian. And you were like, oh, Meridian, my parents live there. I was like, what?
And we talked about the streets, like,
yes.
Oh yeah, they live at these cross streets. And you're like, oh, I live here and I knew your neighborhood. And yeah, it's pretty fun.
It's pretty fun. I love it. And I also love this idea that you have just done such a great job of building a life that really matches kind of who you are and what you want it to be, and still being able to do the work that you want to do and make this impact. I just think it's so admirable. And I really am like in awe of it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much. And it's interesting coming from Idaho, and I love my hometown so much. And it's been really cool to get to explore and learn from so many cultures around the world. And yeah, I've grown a lot in all of the places that I've lived.
Yeah. I didn't grow up in a family where we traveled. I always say like we really couldn't afford to travel. So the first time I ever got on an airplane, I was 18 years old and I went to Dallas for a competition. But it really wasn't until I got my first corporate job and I got to really travel and start to see not just places in the United States, but places outside the United States. And it completely changed my whole world changed just by being able to travel, because I just think it's it just opens your mind to things that you just have no idea about until you're actually physically there and can see, experience, taste, just everything. So
I
What would
couldn't
you
agree
say about
more.
that? Yeah.
I think too, coming from Boise, because I grew up in Boise, it's a very white and very privileged city.
Absolutely.
And coming from there and then moving, our first country we moved to was the Dominican Republic, and we moved to Santo Domingo, and it was just such a difference. And, a lot of people when we were planning that move were not supportive of it. They made a lot of comments about the country, about,
Mhm.
like Haiti, the country that shares the island with the Dominican Republic, and really ignorant, just kind of assumptions about how they should be running their country and, just judgments about the place that I was going. And I'm really glad I didn't listen to people, because then when you get to a place and you actually make friends with people that are different from you, and you learn and you realize that, like, everybody's just trying to live their life in every
Yeah.
place in the world. We're all just people trying to make it through the day. I just changed so much in just that little time span, being in the DR and then Vietnam after that.
Yeah. Oh, Vietnam too. I have not, that's incredible that you had that experience as well. And then now Portugal. Why Portugal?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, we lived in Vietnam and then we came back for 8 years and then we moved to Thailand with our kids.
Okay.
And unless you want to, I won't go into too much detail, but we can just like suffice it to say that it was all the things that could go wrong went wrong living in Thailand. And after 10 months, we moved and we love Thailand still, but it just was so hard to live in a developing country with young children. And we just had all these medical issues and bat infestation in our house and all kinds of things.
Oh, God.
So we were looking for a place that was still, it felt adventurous, but it was easier.
Mm.
It was easier as a family, good quality of life. And we started with Spain. They had a lot of bureaucracy at the time that made it difficult. And so we just went next door. We're like, okay,
Okay.
Portugal.
Okay.
I'm really, really, we've been here almost 6 years now. So I'm so grateful that we ended up here.
Do you feel like you'll stay a while, or are you getting the like that little itch to go like, okay, what's next?
I'm really happy where we are. And
Good.
actually, we're facing right now some challenges with, as our kids get older, having the right kind of schools for them that are available as they get older. When you're young, in the Algarve where we live, the southern part of Portugal, it's amazing. There's so many great primary schools, but once you get into middle school, it gets a lot more difficult. And so we're confronting this. Do we stay and kind of make it work with the schools that we have access to in our area, or do we move where there's better schools? And I really don't want to move, neither does my husband. I mean, Nikki, today, before our chat, I worked in the morning and then I went on a cliffside hike with my friend overlooking this beautiful blue ocean. And then I had fresh fish lunch overlooking the ocean. And then I came to talk to you. So it's just, and it's a mile and a half from my house. So it's
Okay.
just the lifestyle here is just so good. And it's
Yeah.
such a good balance to my hyper, like type A driven side. It just calms me down, keeps me centered and balanced.
Well, I hope you guys find the right answer and the right solution for everybody. And oh my gosh, yeah, I wouldn't want to leave either. It sounds incredible.
It's pretty great.
I want to come for a visit. Okay.
Come, please.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to dig in here a little bit on this idea of designing a choiceful life, because I like the idea of, well, there's so many things I like about just even this title, right? Like designing in your control, choiceful life, right? Like being able to have choice, it matters. It so matters. It matters in all, I think, in all areas, whether you're working with a client of giving them choice, whether you want to have choice, like it's so beautiful. And I think this is something that, I think hopefully the listener is already agreeing, like Stacy is the expert here. She's done this. And so we get this great opportunity to learn from you, Stacy. So thank you for that. So my first question is always, if I were to stand in for you for a day, and I would like it to be today, knowing the day you've already had, if I got to stand in for you today, what would I have to do or think, and or how would I behave in order to really show up with this idea of designing a choiceful life?
I think, and this, I'll talk kind of high level, but then I'll
Yeah.
bring it back to the practical on the theme of Idaho. I did an internship in college at the Boise State Alumni Magazine. And in that internship, I met a woman who became a mentor and a friend. Her name's Jennifer. And she, on one walk that we took when I was dealing with this, what felt like a life-altering decision at the time, she listened to me blabber on for a while as we walked by the Boise River. And then she kind of paused and she said, Stacy, I'm going to share something with you that my mentor said to me, and that is you make a choice and then you make another one. And I instantly got what I needed from that. And from that moment forward, it really removed the fear around choice making, because a lot of times when we come into decision making, we feel like it's either or. So that's number one. Sometimes we haven't even given ourselves more than one choice. So we're actually just kind of like defaulting into the only option that we've created for ourselves or that seems to be available. But then the other piece is if you are making a choice that's kind of like opposites, or it could take you in different paths, just remembering that you can always make another choice. Each choice, except for in very rare circumstances, you will have an opportunity to change direction or make a different decision. In Thailand, for example, about 6 months in, my husband and I looked at each other and I said to him, we made a choice to come here. We can make a choice to leave. And that's what we did. We decided to leave. I think that carries to the day-to-day in that I am very mindful of how I orient to kind of everything I do from a place of choicefulness. Today, as an example, like my calendar is very packed. And even my assistant today was like, we meet every day for a team stand up. And the hurdle that she's having is that my calendar is really packed. And she's trying to protect my time and make space for me. But the reason my calendar is packed is not because I don't have the time available. It's because I block so much space on my calendar that I only allow a certain amount of time to be booked on my calendar. And that's only Tuesday through Thursday, typically, unless there's like a client thing that I absolutely, it's time sensitive. And it's only in the afternoon. And then I also blocked off the entire first week of June because I need to do some high level thinking. And so the reason I was able to make time for this hike today with my friend and to have lunch with her and to be present for that was because of all of kind of this mindset of choice around, like, rather than being subject to, oh, I don't have any time ever, really being intentional about that space and protecting that space on my calendar. I don't know if that totally answered your question, Nikki, but hopefully at least we kind of got in the ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, you have my mind just spinning about all kinds of thoughts and ideas. Well, first and foremost, your mentor, and thank you for sharing that. Like, you make a choice and then you make another one. Like that right there, I feel like mic drop. That was, I'm literally going to write that on a sticky note and put that on my monitor.
Yeah, it's powerful.
I need that right now. That is so great. And then I love too that you're sharing this idea of that you intentionally block time on your calendar. That means that only opens space for other people to then block time on your calendar. And I started doing that a few years ago and thinking like, I don't know if I can do this. And it's been more than a few years now. And it just really works to my benefit of limiting and not getting so much in the weeds of feeling like everybody else controls me and I'm just like bouncing from one thing to the next because I do block things on my calendar all the time. Then it's my decision whether I'm going to release that time to somebody else, because otherwise it's reserved for me. So I love that you do that. Okay, so next question for you is, what are your goals when it comes to designing your choiceful life?
My big focus over the last couple of years, well, more than a couple, it's been several years, has been transitioning my business model so that I can have more time. And that was influenced by the fact that I have a child that has a lot of additional medical needs. We have a lot of appointments that we go to. And I really felt like I really needed to be able to step away from my computer and, you know, be there with him and in a way that didn't cause me to be way behind later on. And that has been a huge motivator for me in how I'm building my business and really thinking about my future and the work that I do in the world. The last 4 years, I've built from being a solopreneur to now having a team of 5 outside of myself. And then I think on top of that, the thing that I wasn't really expecting in that goal was how much I have come to enjoy the journey of leadership and growing others. And I think also experiencing how much more I can accomplish when I trust other people and also bring in people who are really excellent. And my team is absolutely better than me at so many things, and they're clicked in and they care. And so I think, you know, my goals shift a little in that at first it was all about me and making space for myself. And now it has that still there, but it's also around lifting up my team and creating opportunities for them, listening to them when they have ideas and want to build new things in the business. We've done some things that I never would have brought to the table, but they're good ideas and they're excited about it. So yeah, I think also remaining open to what that can evolve into. Of course, I have many other goals, but I think that's what comes to mind when you ask that question.
Okay. I love this. Okay. So I'm going to just comment a few things. Please correct anything that I say that you don't agree with. But you had said here that the kind of that first kind of step in reaching the goal was putting yourself first. I think that was kind of my version of what you said. So I'm really truly paraphrasing there. Is by putting yourself first, what happened was then it opened up space for you to discover new things. And in this particular case for you, it was this idea of leadership and having this team and what would be possible for your team, which also reminds me of a quote that Scott Galloway says this all the time. Greatness is in the agency of others. And it seems like maybe you've discovered that as well to be true, that by you taking this time for yourself and being intentional, it has now allowed for these other people to kind of step in and really contribute in a whole new way, which I also think is super powerful, especially in any area of your life. Because again, we're talking about designing a choiceful life, and that doesn't always just mean business, but it could, right? Like it does mean business too, but it could be your personal life too. And then now you've got, you know, thank you for sharing so candidly that you have probably what most of us would consider a pretty difficult life situation that's outside of work that does require attention and time. And because you are intentional, you have time for that too, without it derailing everything else.
Yeah, I love the way that you paraphrase that. And it's got me thinking a little, because I don't know that I would say that I ever put myself first, but I try to put myself in alignment with the other people that I care about and value myself as much. And it doesn't always happen, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have like a life posture of self first, actually. I think it's like, because sometimes I struggle with, as much as I actually am very good at setting boundaries and maintaining those boundaries, I'm also really mindful of the fact that sometimes people set boundaries that are harmful to other people without like care and concern about the other people that it impacts. And as a parent and as a leader, and that I have a ton of bosses because I have clients, you know, I think if I were always, I think I do maintain excellent self-care. I will say I do that well. I run, I eat good food, I sleep, I do emotional maintenance, not always, but I generally am pretty good at that. But I think if I really were to take in what you said, and I really appreciate the reflection because it's got me thinking about this, do I put myself first? I don't think that I do, but I don't think that it's in a mindset of lack, like, oh, I'm always putting myself last. It's like, I value myself and I value the other people around me in maybe not totally equal, but in similar ways. my kids certainly get more of me than I give to myself, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if what you take from that, but that's really got me thinking, Nikki. It's really interesting the way that your reflection kind of sparked some
Well,
ideas for me.
I really love how you came back at that with me, because yes, I totally see now the way that you explain that at least you're at the party, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're when you're deciding to prioritize, at least you are a consideration. Maybe not always and yeah, and I apologize if I seem like I was saying like, oh, how selfish of you, because I definitely
No,
didn't
it didn't
mean
come
that either.
across that way at all.
But this idea of like, you still get an invitation, you still get a seat at the table, and not that you necessarily have to be the first person to get, served at the table, but at least you are going to get served in some way and in some fashion, which I think a lot of times many of us struggle with that, right? Of like, well, I'll just give up my seat at the table. I won't even be at the table. But yet, if you're not at the table, how can you truly make room for the other people, right? Like, how can you decide who gets your attention if you don't even get a seat, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of getting lost in the weeds now here too, but it just, I like the way that you put it back, that it's not necessarily that you're first, but you're at least a consideration. And that to me still speaks to designing a choiceful life, that you still have to be a consideration, because otherwise everybody else is designing it for you if you don't have a say.
Yeah, I love that. And I think when I think back to, because I know part of what we're trying to unpack here for listeners is what were the steps? Like, what was that process of getting there? And I think that if I look back early on, taking in the mindsets of different cultures, and particularly European culture, I started to notice that businesses around me would shut down for 2 months at a time. They wouldn't answer their phone. They wouldn't reply to their emails. Like, there was no way to get in touch with anybody ever. And so then I did that. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to shut down for a month and we'll see how it goes, And that, I think over time I take off probably 8 to 10 weeks a year for different, so not usually 3 to 4 weeks at a time, but then I take off different patches around holidays and time off from school and stuff like that. And I think just initially making that decision that to really say, okay, I love what I do, but I also know that this is not a sustainable way to function if I'm never getting rest, if I'm never taking, time away. That was an initial step for me in beginning to be more choiceful, like making a choice to do something that felt like, oh, I hope things don't blow up, but I'm going to just try this and see how it goes. And then finding that actually I had a huge month of sales the month like right before I left. There were a bunch of people waiting for me when I came back, ready to work with me, excited to connect. I had a bunch of calls booked. And I also think that sometimes being like leading from a choiceful place then attracts people, the right kind of people that also want, like they aspire to that or they are living that way. So I've gotten like, I will tell anybody who will listen that my clients are the coolest, most accomplished, most incredible, most values aligned people on the planet. And I do feel like a lot of the reason for that is because I'm really mindful in how I, share my work and who I'll get on a call with. And, I think there's so much to that the choices lead to just abundance in so many ways.
That makes me think about, I used to have this conversation often with friends, and I have had it also with clients over the years too, that a lot of times what you just said about your clients and the kind of clients that are showing up to work with you and how incredible they are, the thing that I think can sometimes be a missing piece, and it certainly doesn't sound like it is for you, is that oftentimes people will show up and they'll say to me like, oh, well, who I most want to attract, whether it's in your personal life or in your business, who I want to attract. And they'll have this like, ideal client. And then you go, okay, but here's the question they don't seem to ever ask. Like, okay, I'll design who my ideal client is, but I won't actually take it a step further and turn the mirror back and go, would that ideal client that you just designed, would they actually hire you? Like, do you have the skill set? Do you have the presence? Do you have the things that they would be attracted back to? Just because you're attracted to that person doesn't mean that they're going to return it, right? Like, and I think we understand that sometimes in personal relationships, but I think they're just as important in business relationships as well. That if you want to attract a certain type of clientele or you want to have a certain type of life, you need to do the work to be the kind of person that would attract those kind of clients to you. And that's, I think, I see that in you and what you've done, Stacy. Like, you've done the work. You and your husband have made these huge commitments to travel, to experience new things, to build lives outside of, what most of us think is like our small little bubble, right? And then of course you can speak to that. And of course that's going to attract people with this like expansive mindset to work with you because you have demonstrated that you have that.
Wow, you just triggered a whole back in time, some thoughts on actually earlier stages. I think this NLP stuff really works, Nikki. You got me thinking about much, much earlier in my career. And when I really wanted to kind of level up, I was still in Idaho, but we had this dream of living abroad. We had been talking about moving to Thailand since we lived in Vietnam, actually, because we had traveled to Thailand. It was just such an amazing time. And so it became this dream that my husband and I had. And I had my kids and we were still like talking about this, but we hadn't really taken any action on it. And in this time, this is like a several year period, I applied for a TEDx talk and I got rejected the first time, but then I applied again the next year and I got selected. And it was a pretty big selection process because it's for Boise. So there were a lot of applicants, multiple rounds. And part of this experience at TEDx was that they provided you with a speaking coach and a stylist. And that the process of working with both of them was so transformative for me because I had really kind of gotten into a place where I had this dream, but I was operating from I don't want to say I was definitely operating from a place of excellence, but I wasn't operating from a place of believing in my excellence and projecting that excellence. And so working with this coach, the speaking coach for TEDx, really gave me so many tools to be able to speak and present and really change my presence and how I showed up. And then and both of these women became very good friends of mine. We actually started a business together a few years later. The stylist that I work with, I had little kids at home and I was just drab and clothes were hanging off of me. And I was just in this kind of weird phase of like, my body's changing and I'm adjusting and I don't know who I am actually anymore. And I'm like, I'm kind of reorganizing my life to have kids and all this stuff. And she really showed me how style could be my wing woman and really aid me in how I felt about myself. And so rather than looking at it as like, oh, I hate, getting dressed, I hate all this stuff, really reorienting and go, what outfit is going to make me feel amazing? And really understanding communication and how I showed up. And so that, to your point, I also worked many more times with speaking coaches and in different opportunities. Anytime I get a keynote, anytime I get something that's like big stakes. I emceed a huge event in Germany a couple months ago, coaching for that. I think that sometimes getting some help, getting some coaching, getting some support to like drag you up out of that little hole that you're in and show you how awesome you are and then show you how to project that awesomeness out. For me, that was so huge. And I've gone through little iterations of this after that, but that was just such a big, and then just doing the TEDx talk, which was a ton of work. And, standing in front of that group and having that experience, I think all of that was so impactful for me and did help me move closer to this life that I have today.
I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. I do think getting support is often a big piece of, this idea of like, we're not lone wolves and you're not supposed to be on this journey by yourself, and thinking that, that you have to know everything already is just such an unrealistic expectation of yourself. And so seeking out what are those people and or ways that you can elevate, again, yourself, so that you have made a conscious decision to design this life. You've made the choice about what you want for your life. And that just, I think it makes all the difference. And that's where you see people that have achieved this new, different level. This is why in a lot of cases, I think people will look at you and be like, well, I can never do what Stacy did. Well, yeah, of course you could. You absolutely can. It's paying attention to these things that she's sharing. And you've done such a great job and shared so many things. I'm just going to comment on a few. Like, I have a whole long list of notes here. But that first one that you said of like, you make a choice and then you make another choice. Like, you don't have to make it a bigger deal than that. And so if you're stuck in this, like, I can't make a decision, I can't make a choice, like you're not, there's no designing here. Like, if you really want to design, you have to start by making a choice. So I love that so much. And then this idea of that you have value and that you have to be a part of the consideration, even though you're taking care of other people, that you have to have a voice in order for you to have that time and space to see what else is possible. Like, you won't know what's possible for your life if you don't give yourself a part, a voice, a time, whatever that is. And then this last piece around getting support, like, super powerful. Is there anything else we haven't addressed yet, specifically around designing a choiceful life, that you feel like we really need to talk about?
Well, I mean, this is going to probably sound kind of basic, but I do feel that personal wellness and health is such a critical piece to all of this. And for me, how that shows up and how that impacts me in being able to maintain choicefulness, I suppose, is like regulation, keeping myself emotionally regulated through the activities of my day, whether I'm running or doing yoga or hiking with a friend or, whatever that like exercise or movement. It doesn't even have to be a sweaty run. It can be, simply walking your dog or doing something to move your body in some way, being really mindful about what I'm feeding my brain because, that how I am, what I'm putting in my body really impacts, again, how regulated I am, how I show up in my parenting, how I show up for myself. And I think just having really good, holistic, healthy lifestyle has been so huge and important for me in how I show up and how I can kind of operate at the level that I do most of the time. Let's be honest here. We all have those like dips. And when I do dip, I almost always, there's like some kind of health and wellness component to it that has dipped, and I can kind of get back to that. But I think that the other thing that's kind of in that like general bucket is energy management. And when I talk about wellness and lifestyle, it is really making sure that your energy is protected and managed and supported throughout the day. So I am a book writing coach. This is a lot of what I teach my clients, is how to create space for productivity, to be really able to sit down and be super productive and have fun doing it and create something you're proud of, to write their books. And in my life, what that looks like is making sure that my mornings are protected like a mama bear for what we call in my co-authored book, Growing Influence, we call it discretionary time. And that is really time that is devoted to learning, deep thinking, creativity, strategy, anything that really requires your focus, and really paying attention to how I'm blocking my day to create that protected space, deal with the tasks of the day that I need to deal with, make time for the things that matter in my business and in my life, but also show up high energy for the things that I need to show up high energy for. I know I've mentioned my heck today a couple of times, but that was an intentional choice to go do that today. Nikki, we're here in this conversation and both of us are giving 100% to be able to show up and serve the listener, the viewer that's with us. That requires me making space to reset my energy and be present and refreshed. That's why I went. I mean, I like hanging out with my friend too and connecting, but that hike, that lunch, the sunshine, the sea air, to come back, I didn't come off of sitting at my desk through lunch and, my brain is flat when I come to you. So a lot of that energy management, I think, I don't know if I'm pushing this line to choicefulness, but I do think that this really mindfulness around your habits, your lifestyle, regardless of how hard things are, because I speak from a place of not having time abundance, actually. It's not built into my life. I really have to be very, very protective of my energy to be able to be present for things like this, to be able to write, to be able to do a lot of the things that I do. And that's the same with the leaders that I work with. They're C-level executives, or they have businesses like you do, Nikki. So, I think that maybe the choice connection is really the choice around your schedule. And that actually leads to the choicefulness in your whole life. I think that's where the connection is that I've been trying to find.
I love that. Okay. Well, she just kind of you just broke it down for us. And I appreciate that so much. Thank you. As we kind of bring this part of the podcast and episode to a close, I always like to ask a few questions, just kind of more about you. I feel like you've done such a great job of sharing. We've learned some things, but I always like to ask a few questions. And so one of the things I would ask is, what is something that people would be surprised to learn about you? Because I feel like you've shared, but I'm interested to know what your answer to this is.
I think people are often very surprised at how scientifically minded I am, because my graduate studies were funded by a research assistantship. So I worked at a scientific journal. I worked with a Nobel Prize winner in medicine. I did all the data collection pretty much for all the content. I wrote a book, ghostwrote a book for him. I wrote over 800 pieces of scientific content for him and his business partner. And I'm also very obsessed with gut health, and has a very much a scientific connection to it. So I'm always, I'm the friend that when people have some mysterious symptom or something they're trying to sort out health-wise, I'm the person that they come to. I'm the person my friends come to for research gathering and just help on that side. So
I'm a science nerd. That. I was not, you did surprise me. I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. What is a way that you tend to celebrate your wins? Is there anything that you do to celebrate?
Our team culture. So I'll start on the team, but team culture is all around celebration. I mean, everything we do is oriented around celebration. In fact, Andrew on our team, our ops manager, just set up us in our Slack. He just set up a zap that when people join our email list, we're now getting their name that comes through with a celebration. So every single piece and we're always celebrating clients, and our marketing is all around celebration, is all around celebrating our clients. So it is really completely integrated professionally. It's part of our culture. And personally, we are big birthday fans. We don't just do a birthday, we do birthday weekend. I really, we try to celebrate our family members. My husband just gave me a really beautiful Mother's Day just recently. And I think that is really important actually for me. I think with all that I navigate sometimes personally, to take the time to celebrate. And then on a super practical level, since I am in the book world, I've co-authored, authored, or ghostwritten 18 books myself. And every draft that I complete, I go up to a high surface somewhere, wherever I'm living at the time. And I just put my arms in the air, and I might shout if there's not too many people around, but I really it's silly, but it's fun. And it's just me. It's just mine. And that has just been a really nice ritual that I do. I'm sure it looks totally foolish, but it makes me happy.
I love it. Again, super fun to learn these things about you. I did notice and had a real appreciation on your website that you have this idea of like celebrating your clients and you highlight them and their book. And I was like, wow, I will say I've never seen that done that way because I was like, wait, I was thinking these were going to be testimonials, but they're not. It's you doing shout outs to your clients. And I freaking loved that so much. So I can see where celebration is very much a part of your culture and how you show up in the world. I love, love, love that so much. Okay. What's something exciting going on in your business right now?
Well, we always have a lot of cool and exciting things going on. I think, gosh, which one do I pick? I think right now we're working on a way to bring our one-to-one work. So I have a group program. I work one-to-one with authors, and we are starting to work with publishers and starting to help them get their authors through their pipeline and supporting them. And so that's really exciting because for me, one of the challenges that I face with the authors I work with, it's not a challenge per se, but it's a thing we have to navigate together, is I focus on the writing. I get them completed with their draft. That's my area of expertise. And then I get them to the next partner for the publishing process. So to get to work directly with publishers that I trust, that I have a relationship with, and support them in that way and know that my clients are like so lovingly taken care of on the other side and it's easy for them is super, super exciting. So that has been very fun and very exciting.
That is cool. I love that. Love that. All right. So how can somebody listening right now connect with you? Because I suspect there's people out there going like, I would like Stacy to be my book coach. So what's the best way?
Yeah, you can find me at stacyennis.com. I'm on Instagram at Stacy Ennis. I'm on LinkedIn. We just put out a new quiz that is so fun that you can take to discover your writing super strengths. And I give you a bunch of tips on how to lean into your super strengths to get more out of yourself as a writer. So you can take that on my website. And please, if you found me through the Sales Maven podcast, let me know that you found me through Nikki. I love to connect with listeners of this podcast. And that's just fun because I can say hello and learn more about you and just know my door is always open.
Awesome. Stacy, thank you so much for being here. I learned so much today and you have my brain just like firing on all kinds of levels here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. I really love the conversation. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks. And for you, the listener, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. As always, please connect with Stacy. She is absolutely brilliant and amazing. And if you found something particularly useful or really resonated with you in this particular episode, please share it and or contact me and or Stacy and let us know what was the thing. I am wishing you so much success in all that you're doing. Have a great rest of your day.